Now, widespread issues of sexual abuse and rape culture in schools continue to dominate the headlines today, and this has led to one of Britain's most senior police officers urging parents to hand their children into the police if they suspect them of sexually abusing or harassing others. Now, the comments come as almost 10,000 anonymous testimonies of abuse in schools have been published on a website called Everyone's Invited. It's an online forum where people can post their experiences of sexual assault. And we talked so much about this morning because there are so many areas here to discuss. I, for one, Janet, was quite shocked at the amount of these testimonies that say that the victims felt that they couldn't tell anybody or they had told and nothing had been done about it. And I was really shocked at that because back in the day, when I was a teenager, and I've written about this in my column this week, I had a man put his hand up my skirt on a packed tube. I had a man flash at me on the tube station, a crowded tube station, actually. And I was probably 12, 13 years old, and I didn't do anything about it because I didn't know what to do, and we didn't talk about it. I told my friends, got to school and went, oh, you never guess what happened. And as an adult, I look back and think, why didn't I say something? But now, I think schools have counsellors and they have mentors and they have PHSE lessons where they discuss these kind of topics. I was very shocked that still, particularly girls, it seems, I'm not saying this just happens to girls because obviously boys can be sexually harassed as well, felt that they still couldn't tell, or if they told, they felt nothing was being done about it.
I think things have changed. When we grew up, when I was a teenager, your mother instilled into you, you know, keep yourself to yourself. They did give us all sorts of advice. Don't get in cars with strange men, you know, don't go with strangers, this, that and the other. But as far as sexual harassment and low-level, you know, groping and worse, the kind of worst things that you've mentioned, we somehow were brought up to think that maybe we were responsible in some way, some mad, irrational way that we had brought it on ourselves, because our parents were always saying, don't do anything to get noticed,
Draw attention to yourself.
Don't draw attention to yourself. And that really permeated through to us. So when a man touched us and we weren't expecting it, we certainly didn't want it, our first reaction was that somehow we were to blame. Well, today's young women obviously don't feel like that, nor should they. But what I find amazing about this story is that since the allegations were first raised about some of Britain's most expensive, most exclusive schools, although they've now spread to all schools, whether they're private or public, is that the people running these schools are, for the most part, highly intelligent, personable. They've got people skills by the bucket load because that's why they're running schools. And yet somehow this all comes as a big shock to them. And there was a head of one of the schools on the television the other night saying she had no idea it was going on. Well, surely there's a disconnect here if you're running a school and a large number of girls in that school posting these allegations which seem shocking, where girls are alleging they were raped, that photos of body parts were shared around the school, and they couldn't tell anyone, and yet they have all these
let's go back.
lessons. I can't believe it.
Let's go back, Coleen, to the police chief, Simon Bailey, and he is the National Police Chiefs Council on Child Protection. He leads that. And when he's talking about the victims, he's saying, if parents are aware that their son or their daughter has been a victim of abuse, they must come forward. But when he talked about going to the police if you suspect them, he's used the word son. If, as a parent, you are aware your son has been responsible for sexual assault, I think you should, again, go to the police. And that made me stand back a bit as a mother of a son, because I thought, well, is he asking us now to ask our sons, have you ever done anything like this? Which to me is like almost saying, I believe you could have done or might have done. How do you feel about what he said and would, taking your child to the police?
I think it's an easy thing to say and a very hard thing to do because, like you say, if you sit down and ask, certainly a child that has been guilty of doing that, 9 times out of 10 they're going to deny it and say, well, I didn't. And as a parent, what are you going to do? Well, are you a liar? Should I take you? Unless you have proof that they have, in which case, yeah, you should take them to police. However, I find it really, really kind of scary. You know, I've got a daughter and 2 sons, obviously, and my daughter is very, very passionate about all these movements now for women and what's happening and being able to speak up, and she's 100% behind it. And she's taught me a lot of things because, like you said, Ruth, in our day, you would just kind of, or whatever, you know, you just ignored it and got on with it or whatever. And she's made me realize that that isn't right and you shouldn't have to. And I admire her for that. But I'm also terrified. You know, I am a bit scared for my sons in case they do. I would hope they wouldn't, because we have very open discussions, but in case they said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing and were accused of something, I find that really quite scary nowadays. But Jake, my son, made a good point, because he thinks it's down to boys to talk to each other and pull each other up. You know, he said, when you're in a group of boys, you're kind of scared to go, actually, I think you're out of order for saying that, because you don't want to look like, you know, the weak one of the group. And he said, you know, nowadays he thinks it's up to other boys and other men to pull someone up if they think
and
they're
say
being,
it's inappropriate. Yeah,
you know,
I'm really sorry.
and say it's inappropriate.
We are running out of time, so I've got to go to this break at a certain time, Frankie. But it is something that we'll talk about again. But you've got young sons, obviously. But listening to this, does it make you think there is you need to be having that conversation
100%.
with your boys?
Yeah, and I think it has to start younger than maybe what we initially have always thought. You know, don't wait until they're teenagers. Have those kind of conversations slightly earlier of, you don't have to sexualise it necessarily, but of what's right and wrong. Yeah, all about respect and stuff. So I would definitely be having those conversations. And if I had a daughter, equally, I'd be having those conversations of what's right and wrong, and that you should speak up.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, the Everyone's Invited website was set up by Soma Sara, a young graduate, and it certainly has opened the conversation, which is why we're talking about it today. I said we've got to go to the break now, but I'm sure it is something we'll return to, because everybody's talking about this at the moment and it's very important.